get ready to launch off. If you want to be part of the launch off impact on LinkedIn, and howdy. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of The Launch Off. I am Dana Nguyen, your host, and I am coming live from Wonderyland here in Melbourne, Australia. And I would love to find out where you are watching this show from. We've been going live from Melbourne to Melbourne. We had String and Tima on recently, and we're heading to the US next week. But I'm really excited to interview my guest who's from London. But before I invite my guest, and you probably already know who it is because I blasted it on LinkedIn, please let us know where you're watching from. And we're looking forward to bringing our guest on and just letting you know there is, this is a collaboration with Restream, and there is a referral link. You can get $19 off Restream and go live on different platforms, up to 30 platforms. I'm going live tonight on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. That's a mouthful. We're going live everywhere because the person I'm interviewing, they're going to tell you how to sell emotionally. And if you haven't gone to this person's profile, you will see what I'm talking about. The Launch Off is a show about how does someone keep pivoting their career and you know, face challenges and keep recreating themselves, launching off. And my guest has always reinvented themselves, has always, you know, seen the new thing and gone really hard for it, and it's converted. And they are a LinkedIn specialist as well. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to ask questions directly to our guest all the way from London. Please welcome Richard Moore. Here we go.
Hey, how are you? Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for jumping in as well. This is awesome.
Yes. So we are going live on LinkedIn on 3 other different platforms right now. And Richard, we've known each other since 2018 here on LinkedIn, this platform that people on the outside world don't know much about. But we do because we're constantly on it. And people who don't know Richard Moore, you'll find out more about him. But the one thing that I love, and this is what String talks about, is candy. I do love it that you are a Taekwondo black belt master. Is that right?
Not technically, master is 7th Dan. I'm a lowly 4th Dan black belt, so I'm technically a mister, not a master. But yes, it was 19 years of my life. So that's my thing in the background I was doing a long time.
Yeah. And we've launched straight into, you know, the behind the scenes of Richard Moore.
Yeah.
How has Taekwondo, you know, the principle of it followed into the way you work, into your business now?
It's a really good question because a lot of people are like, how that's just like not correlating with what you do, but actually it is. There's 2 things that really step out of it. Firstly, Taekwondo for me was another way to teach. And so the thread through everything I've ever done has been teaching and helping people by sharing some form of an impact on something I seem to be quite good at. So that's something I really enjoyed. I taught kids and adults for 12 years. But really the other thing that has helped me a lot, certainly with work, but in just generally in life, is that something like martial arts, especially when you're sparring one-on-one with the intensity of people, but also teaching large groups of people, it teaches you to tune in to people. Like, you read people so much better. In a fight, you learn pretty quick you're going to get kicked in the teeth unless you read that person in a moment. So looking for the non-verbal cues, the really subtle nuances, is actually the thing I do a lot of in business. The tiny behavioral tells, both that someone's going to try and kick you or potentially is interested in working with you. There's actually a lot of commonality there. And I'd like to hope that I was a good coach and worked well with holding court with, 4-year-olds on a Saturday morning for an hour isn't easy. And when you've got 12 of them needing to be having their attention held because the parents wouldn't mind you doing that for a bit.
Yes.
It's really important to be able to read the room and sense, if you're losing them or if you're gaining them. So reading people, it's interesting because you think the answer to that question is I learned how to kick hard or break boards, but actually it's more about the people you're interacting with, because you get so much more that way. So it's fascinating. It's so relevant to what I've done.
Yeah, no, it's true, because if I think about my other art form is comedy and
Yes,
improvising, it's exactly what you're saying. The body tells you what the information is before they open their mouths,
too
right?
right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
then you've got another trick, because people when they think of sales, they think just talk, 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 talk until you wear
yeah,
them out, right? And
yeah. Absolutely.
you are clearly a great talker, like,
Thank you.
expert salesperson. But
Thank you.
but that's probably your, another skill that you have is just watching what they do with their body and what you now need to do to bring them back into the room.
Yeah, and I think what really helped me was my first job. I was cold calling on the telephone, so I was
Ooh.
not had no visual, no Zoom. Exactly, everyone's like, I don't want to do that, but by sticking it out, I learned, because I only had audio. I had nothing else. I learned what a pause really meant. I learned, and I can't explain it. It's just a feeling by doing it thousands of times, but I even learned what certain types of breath meant, or how they like inflections on wording and things like that. It's like a whole behavioral thing I love to geek out on. And so how people communicate is such a subtle, nuanced art form. And what I teach in terms of conversion, for instance, is sure, it's a lot of the obvious cues, but a lot of it are kind of very implicit things that even the person communicating with you don't
Mm.
really realize that they're showing. So I think it's fascinating. It's just human behavior, isn't it? It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's it. And if you want to know more about Richard's work, please ask the question. Pop it below in the comments. You know what to do, and tell us where you're watching from. Ask questions. This is what we're wanting to dive into, is Richard's work. And I did go through your profile because that's called
Did you?
research.
Okay. Okay.
Not only do you do Taekwondo, but you've started a conversation with your latest post called Start with Emotional Value, and
Yeah.
about practical and emotional. And you talked
Mm.
about, the parachute being a really
Yeah.
great metaphor for it.
Yes.
Could you tell us more about the practical selling, the value, and the emotional?
Yeah, it's interesting because people talk about value in general, right? And it's because it's cliche and easy just to say the word, like saying I'm authentic, but not really knowing what it genuinely means. And I think that value can be, I've always thought it can be broken into two different forms. One is a very practical one, and if we're talking business, for instance, it will be, the ways in which you can actually help someone, the functional features of engaging with them and delivering something. But
Mm,
emotional value is akin to rapport building in a way. And emotional value can be that you're stimulating someone intellectually or through humor or in some form of other emotion. And there is value, for want of a better word, in leading with emotional value when you're beginning a relationship. Because if you lead with practical value, so the first engagement with someone new is talking about how you can help them, technically that is valuable, but that's not how humans work. They need to trust you first. So
mm,
going in with emotional value is far better. And you'll find that when you do stand up, for instance, the people who really dig you and think you're funny have got emotional value despite not knowing you prior to that
mm.
experience. After that show, some people might be keen to work with you or do something with you or learn about you or even hire you for another gig, for instance. And they're interested in the practical value, how that works, because they were sold on emotional value first. So do you need one or the other? You need both, but there is an order. Most people lead, however, with practical value, but they
Yes.
skip the fact that they're speaking to a human.
Well, see, this is the thing. When I hear the word emotional and selling, what's the difference between emotional value and emotional blackmail?
Well, interesting.
Yes.
Emotional blackmail, of course, is using it for a bad outcome.
Yes.
Whereas I think what we need to have is a two-pronged approach to
Yeah.
engaging with new people if we're going to sell. both kind of outcomes are good. They are wins. We need to always go in saying to ourselves, I'll lead with emotional value because I genuinely, because you should want
Yes.
to actually engage with this person, not because they could buy my product, but
Yes.
because actually I find them stimulating and interesting. So the two outcomes we're after, ideally both, is A, we have a great relationship and they may even buy something, become a wonderful long-term customer, or B, we have a great relationship and that's still cool. And the problem is people in the past would disregard that and like, oh, that's a waste of time. I didn't get a sale. It doesn't work like that anymore because everyone has a network, as you and I well know. So going in with this open mind of, statistically, I'm not going to get a sale every time. I'm, in fact, statistically unlikely to get a sale here because usually I will not. No one's that good at selling. So let's go in and focus on building a great relationship. The sale is great if I get one, but if I don't, emotional value can lead to a really good relationship. It doesn't have to be that I'm leveraging it for dodgy stuff.
Yes.
And I think what it comes down to is starting in a good place. And what that means is saying, you know, who am I reaching out to? What's beyond the fact that they are technically a well-qualified lead? You know, we've got to go deeper than that. You know, here's someone I'm actually quite interested in. They do something interesting. And what I love is that the kind of people I work with are also people who do stuff I really think is cool, as opposed to technically I could work with them, you know, because it means that beyond the borders of what I teach them or what we help one another with, I've got a really cool connection now. And I think just going deeper like that, it's funny because people don't want to do that, Diana, because it feels like a lot of work, but actually it's the same amount of work, but with less people, but greater depth. And it's way more fulfilling for both parties, I find, having that approach.
Well, I think that's even our friendship. Like we've never met
Yeah.
each other, but
No.
you enlisted me, Tima, and Christina to host your business entrepreneur in Melbourne in
Yes, that's right.
2019, I think, early
2019,
2019.
I think, yeah.
And then, you know, you also did a US tour in 2019 before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
You talk about, you know, we meet people that we're not necessarily going to do business with, but they're cool people. And you have this rapport, and then you
Yeah.
support, and then referrals come naturally from that, isn't it? Because I'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
who's a good LinkedIn content conversion person? Richard.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a very hollow world if you build a network of people where you're only trying to leverage their bank accounts, and it's a really bad idea. And that Entrepreneur Business Live started as a few events in London, did 26 events around the world. And what it
Wow.
was like, let's try and do some good. So the money raised went to local charities.
That's
And
right.
what's really nice is, but rather than me trying to game you lot, we just were good pals. And so it's like, you know what? I'd love to do one in Melbourne. It'd be so cool to do one there. And you lot were so open to it because firstly, it's to a good cause. It wasn't certainly to line my pockets, although that's a good cause as well. What it was like, let's do some good. And of course we want to help each other out, you know, because why wouldn't you? And if you're good friends with someone. So I just think that was the vibe that these events had. It was really practical, but there was also emotional value, Diana.
There was. And if we could, and I love playing with this improv, and I reckon you'll be good at it because you've had years of work in sales. Example, if you saw Keanu Reeves, right, what
I
would
see
be
him right now. He's behind you. He's been there all along.
he's mute. I
He's a
silenced him.
flatmate.
Like, give that example of practical and emotional. So if you had to sell Keanu, what's the practical value of, you know, promoting
Good
Keanu?
question. So what you got to always look out for when you're going to do your research and when you approach someone is two things.
Yeah.
So here's the lesson, if you like. Two things. Firstly, how are you going to be relevant? Where's your relevance to someone? So like he's from a completely different world, you might think, but it might be that I can help him with something in particular. So I would need to do my research to see where I've got relevance. The second thing is, where have I got leverage? Because if I don't have leverage, then the fact I'm relevant isn't going to give him enough interest. So, for example, I am relevant to this podcast in that I have something to say and we know one another. But
Yes.
I wouldn't have any leverage unless you felt that I could bring something here, like
Um,
maybe an audience or some value to your audience or something like that. So
yes.
it's the same for him. So if what I'd be looking out for is what is it he could need, and that requires research, and can I actually give it to him on a level that is interesting enough that he'd be like, oh my God, I didn't realize you could help me so much. But I've got to remember as well that he gets approached all the time. So you've got to understand from their perspective. A big word thrown around is empathy, and another term is emotional quotient, so EQ. And everyone loves to say they have it because no one would say they don't. But what it really means, I'm right. But what it really means is people saying to themselves, it's true. But what people need to say to themselves is like, what is the other person's state when they engage with me? If I go up to Keanu Reeves and start talking about him, or even talking up certain things he's done, I'm probably going to get a particular response. What's that response going to be? It will probably be the same as anyone else if they fanboy him. So if I go and gush about The Matrix,
Yes.
you might think, well, that's a great idea. That's a great entry point, but that will fail. You'll get a really nice, like, oh, that's really kind. Thanks so much. And in his head is like, he'll obviously be grateful because he is the type. But at the same time, I'll be like, file this person away as yet another fan. So the thing is, we need to think about how we're going to engage with these people. If you overdo it in terms of fanboying, if I did that, then I'm not going to necessarily frame myself or create a perspective that I could be someone who is a peer on his level and able to help him with a particular thing that I'm good at.
Yes.
So it's not that would lead to disrespect, but it would lead to essentially him filing me away as a certain type of person. So I need to come at this with a different approach. So what you tend to find is that instead of mirroring the sea of other people who are fans, if you want to represent someone that he might look up to even, or at least across to as someone who might help him with a particular thing, you need to approach it differently. So how would his peers interact with him? And actually a weird thing is that banter is sometimes a better way of engaging. There's some people on LinkedIn, for instance, who are very, very well thought of, huge followings. And rather than fanboying them, I just led with banter and like, a little bit of like jokes and things like that, just acting as though I don't have to reach, I don't have to try and impress them, just being not a normal person. And a commentary on that level really makes a big difference, because then, what you need is for that guy to go, oh, that was quite funny, or that's quite an interesting point, or something like that. Just don't try and sell at the start. What you need is for that person, job one essentially is for them to go, that's an interesting guy, or he's got an interesting thing to say. And I did this back in 2016. I built this course, my first ever kind of online proposition, if you like, called 8-Step Startup, which is rest in peace, it's a long time ago. And what I did was, rather than just use my experience, my leverage point was that I engaged with best-selling authors, professors at business schools, and business leaders. So people from Facebook or OMD or wherever, and got in touch with them by using sales techniques and getting them to asking them for advice that I could share in the course.
Yes.
And what was interesting about that is, a great example is Seth Godin, who many people are familiar with. He's like the godfather of marketing, like 20 best-selling books. And the way I engaged with him and got him to say, yeah, sure, here's some advice you can share with your students, Richard, was, instead of going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I think it's so amazing, Seth, I would love it. Could you possibly give me some advice for my students? Which very much is focused on getting an outcome for me.
Yes.
Instead, I bothered to read one of his books, and then I sent him an email. I sent him an email, and I was like, oh, in your book from 2008, you talk about this. Now, given that it's 2016, I feel that something's changed about it, whatever it was. I was like, what's your reaction to this now? So I commented on his baby, his thing that was close to him, rather than being a fanboy. And so I'd probably do the same with Keanu. What's important to him? And I'd make a comment. I'm like, I've paid attention, is what I'm saying. And the thing you care about most, which is maybe a charity or a group of people or an organization you care about, like, I want to talk about that. And so it brought him in, and then conversation led to there. And that's how, through, think how many emails oh my God, how many emails Seth Godin must get every
Yes.
day? And he was
Yes.
like, well, this one's different because I wasn't attacking or challenging necessarily, but I'm like, hang on a sec, the thing you genuinely care about, I've got a question about that. And so I stood out because of it. It's the same approach then, Ficano.
Oh, no, you've applied that approach to me. You bought a Fee and Me t-shirt.
I
And then
did. I did.
I was like, oh, it's different. This is a
If
different
you want someone's attention, go buy their product. It does work really well. But also, I wanted to support, to be fair,
Yes.
and it was orange. So why would I say no?
I love it. Please, if you have a question for Richard, please say hello and pop in the comments. Farah says, much looking forward to this. Welcome to the show. Shalini, who's a massive fan. Well, that's the master talking. We've got Amy joining from Melbourne, tuning in for live. Morelli, hope I say your name correct. Discipline, I imagine. I think we were talking about the Taekwondo. Noreen watching from Melbourne, thank you. We've got Turkey joining us, and Anthony. I love Anthony. He's the grandpa, dancing grandpa from Tanzania. And Kadir from Turkey did say emotional value comes from your heart and soul. That means mercy, empathy, compassion, and love.
Nice.
Boom. Boom. And Amy also has joined the conversation. Yes, I found that actually focusing on building a respectful relationship first rather than going in with practical value first is always better, I find. And Amy is definitely the emotional value. She's part of a group called She Mentors, and she gives value to women 1 hour a week to, create relationships. So definitely hear that. Bob.
But she's got a really good point. I have to jump on there, what
Yes.
Amy's saying.
Yes.
Everyone needs to understand that it feels like more work. It is not more work. It is the same amount of work as spamming 50 people when you engage with 5, but go deep. It's the same amount of work. It's just not it. The thing is, people, you've got to understand there's a difference often between effectiveness and efficiency. It's efficient to spam template or just fire out something that's shallow, even if you write it each time, to 50 people. That's efficient. You get through a lot more. But like the world we're in right now that focuses too much on views, reach, and vanity metrics, what that's doing is playing to a KPI of how many people can I engage with today? Surely that will work and make me a millionaire because I engage lots of people. It's far better to be effective instead. I mean, what that means is, you know what? If I go deep with 5 people, 1 will trust me more, and that's all I need. Because the amount of effort being put in often, whilst it's the same, it doesn't make sense that people would want to send out so many messages each day when typically they only need like 1 new client per week anyway. So it's such an important observation. I'm so pleased that someone's on here saying this.
Yeah, and we've got Bob, who's a massive fan of yours, has joined in.
Hello, Bob. Good to see you.
And also a Keanu Reeves fan as well. If you have a question, pop it in the comments. We're going to be just talking about his work and his launch off. And this is my important question because you did launch off on LinkedIn. You found the spot. You were like, ooh. And, this is a new place to play.
I made that noise, yes.
Yes. How? My launch off story is String. She dragged me on here and we've built a really lovely friendship, and I'm very grateful for her for showing me LinkedIn. What is your LinkedIn launch off story? How did you get here?
Firstly, String's amazing, and I think so highly of her. I spend very little time with people who aren't doing anything exciting. And I love being around ambitious people doing great things, which is why I'm here. But String is awesome, so people need to check her out as well, just as an aside. So it's interesting because what I'm doing here, I was doing elsewhere to begin with anyway. So after 10 years corporate, I left and started coaching. Essentially, I was doing consulting work in the city. In 2013, that's what I moved into. And then as well as building 2 Taekwondo schools as well to keep myself occupied. But 2014, I started really getting onto Facebook, finding kind of solopreneurs and that really beginning first few months of startup kind of phase, because they're there's so much talent combined with ambition and positivity at that time. So of the kind of process. So I wanted to get in there and help people, because the thing I do really well is help people get those first conversions. So when they get deals, they love it because their business now has oxygen. So I did that with Facebook, then Instagram a couple of years later, and that was all well and good. But as we all know, contextually, LinkedIn makes more sense. And I remember back in 2018, just thinking like, it started, something small's going on over there, and I should probably check out what it is. And it's crazy to think it's such a sleeping giant. LinkedIn's been around like 15, 16 years, and they're like, everyone's on it. What is it, 750 million people now? How was it so quiet? And like, so when I started like spending a bit of time, I remember it so well. I can remember the time I was like, wow, I'm going on LinkedIn again. It's been a while, but like going on and like there's a tiny, like it was the tiniest bubble of people. You were there, Q, Tima, you've mentioned as well,
but
putting a bits of content out.
But isn't it interesting? We're from all different parts of the world, but the algorithm, the newsfeed on LinkedIn allowed us to connect, even though we weren't connected.
Exactly right. So that's been such a powerful thing. Without seeing it, without seeing who's making noise and starting conversations, you wouldn't be able to audit who's got something interesting to say. And but I remember the first days, I was like, I didn't post anything for the first couple of weeks. I was just like, I just want to spend time like immersed in, exactly, like I want to bask in it and see what's going on and engage with people. And I'm like, let's just start engaging. And so there's no focus on selling whatsoever. It was just like, let's make friends. The objective is make friends, make people think I'm cool. Because the way I looked at it was there's this kind of inner circle, LinkedIn royalty, I call it, like the top table of people who know each other. And you don't break into a group by going, hey guys, just thought I'd introduce myself, I do this thing. What you do is you show up for them first, you know? Too many people sit up on their thrones. They need to go and see other people and engage in their content and like give a bit, and that made people let me in, because why wouldn't they when I show up for them with no agenda? So then it was a few weeks in, I'm like, okay, my turn for content. And algorithmically back then it was hard to miss. Like it was outrageous. I remember when documents came out and it was like, oh, another 100,000 views today. Then it was ridiculous. So it was really good. But I was also you know, not the classic influencer in like, I wouldn't like do a cheeky picture of me and like some cute quote. I was much more on like trying to be practical and useful for people, because that's what worked on the Facebook. And I just stayed in lane. So there's something perversely pleasing about being someone who spent 3.5 years doing this. And I'm pretty much here every day in terms of content. I'm definitely here every day in terms of being present. But after 3.5 years, I still actually, I have 40,000 followers. It's not tiny, I get it, but it's not immense. And so many people have got huge following, but I'm pleased that I've created some impact and I've got measurable results. That's what matters at the end of the day. So I quite like still being the little guy, so to speak, and being relatable in that sense.
Well, what would the measurable impact be that you're making a living?
One of them is yes. One of them is yes. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. So many people are just not getting any results because just doing content and just engaging in posts isn't going to make you any kind of results. But the other thing, more important to me, is getting other people impact and making other, you know, 80 people almost are in this accelerator now I'm building. And it's like, it's so nice having people say, I just got a deal. Like, I've just done a 5-figure month. I've just done a 6-figure deal, or something. And people getting deals, and their businesses are now letting them live. And like, it comes back in so many multiples. So by not focusing on the money, focusing on impact elsewhere, and proper impact, not just feeling nice necessarily about maybe getting the odd lead here or there, but genuine conversion against the thing I say I'll be able to help with. You know, it's like, it's the best thing to be able to do.
No, love it. And thank you. Our audience are watching, and someone has already said, how did you start? We've answered it. Go back and rewind and listen to it.
Yeah, rewind, but only after the show, rewind it.
Video tip for LinkedIn, and we are collaborating with Restream. We are live on Twitter, which is abnormal, on YouTube, Facebook, I haven't got really much community here, but on LinkedIn. So if you have a question, pop it in the comments below. What are your 3 quick tips to launch off on LinkedIn?
Good question. So tip number 1 is community is king, not content. Community is king, or queen, if you will. But the point here is to understand that you are nothing without people supporting you. And if you understand like, people often say they don't really like sales. They love sales when someone wants to buy. People love selling when someone's like, hey, could I buy, please? So remember, the first tip is community matters. And what I mean by that is spend time, set a time each day with like some sense of like, I will engage with 10 people for the next 45 minutes or whatever, and show up elsewhere. Be part of the conversation, start conversations, and contribute. There's no way around it. Sorry. But by being present, it really makes a difference, because you're seen as someone who is actually there and a little bit more approachable. Familiarity comes from that. People start seeing you again and again. With familiarity comes trust. Humans are built that way. They're hardwired to trust what's known and distrust what is unknown. So when people see you and understand and are familiar with you, they trust you more. And that's where great things can start happening. And here we are on an interview. So community is first. Make sure you spend time on that. Number 2 is stay in lane when you're making content. It is so tempting to talk about, or not even talk about, but to share stuff that gets you views. And what you soon realize, if you go viral, I've gone viral in the past against something that was not really relevant to me. And the reason I went viral was the post was relevant, but the someone I engaged with, who had a massive following, gave me a huge hit of people. And like, I remember deleting hundreds of connection requests. It's like, literally all this is a waste of time. And so like, don't court the wrong numbers is what I'm saying. So tip number 2 is stay in lane with your content. Be known as that person for the thing you do. Because if you go off piste just because you want the 6 seconds of dopamine, because you get, you know, some nice vanity metrics, like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you know. So stay in lane, because what you want is people to ultimately go, you're clearly the person for this. Exactly. We all know you're into Keanu Reeves. It's
Look,
like,
it's going to happen, Richard.
I think in the end he can't avoid hearing about this, you know.
Didn't want to show about it.
But the point here is like you're sending out a pure signal. And for all of the people who, you know, for all the people out there who are making a lot of content and maybe well known and thought of, many of them, we don't have a clue what they do. It's clear you do stand up. It's clear you have the snortcast, because we've heard about it, and you're talking about certain things. It's clear I help people with content conversion on LinkedIn, you know. And so just got to be clear about what you do. Clarity matters.
Yes.
Finally, have a bit of patience as well. It's such a cliche, but I'm saying it because it matters. This has been, you know, I'm in a very nice place where people like, it's only inbound, there's zero outreach, and it does work if you spend time saying the right things to the right people and showing up and giving a bit. But patience works. But as a separate bonus one, learn where the cues are, because so many people discover that actually they've got opportunities right under their nose, but they don't realize they're there or how to get that person to step forward. You often find that someone with maybe 1,000 followers who gets 1,000 views of a post, who has 16 likes and 5 comments, they've got ample opportunities. But the problem is the culture that content creators have made for LinkedIn is screaming at them all the time. If you're not making money, you need more people.
Yeah.
But that's wrong. You've probably everyone listening here today has enough following. They probably have enough people paying attention, but it's not more following you need or more views. It's what you do with the people who are actually paying attention already. So it's so important to learn how to kind of pivot them as well in the nicest possible way.
Well, it's great that you use the word pivot, because let's talk about your new work that you're doing, LinkedIn content conversion. And these are the 3 words that I think about you, which is consistency, value, and community. That's what I think of. Would I be correct in that? Because you are consistent.
I'd like to think so. Yeah, this isn't like a campaign. This is it for, it's open ended. I'm just doing it non-stop. But I was definitely consistent, I think, with my live streaming. I did it every week for
You did.
260 weeks. So 5 years is a long time. I grew grey hair on so whilst doing that. But like I like being consistent because I understand how it maps to a sense of familiarity for me, and people like then are used to seeing me, and that's a positive thing. But yeah, so LinkedIn Content Conversion is a free Facebook group, and it's on Facebook purely because the group is easy to manage there. And every week I go live on it. Not next week because I'm on holiday, but every week I go live on it, and I'm just kind of giving away tips and views and things because I think that it's good having a little tight community beyond posts on LinkedIn. And there's resources and guides and that. I'm just trying to help. And we've had 4 weeks already. We had a 5 weeks. In fact, we've had some nice guests talking about the results I've had and so on. But I just like being direct and practical. And I just want to say thank you to all the support. We've almost got 100 people in that group already. I've only just launched it.
Yeah, you've done a full rework and just gone, no, I'm just going to launch something new, something that's fresh for me, something, it's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes
well, my other link, my other Facebook group, Entrepreneur Business Group, was started in August 2015. It's still there, but I think this is more relevant to me right now. And there's too much overthinking from people about how you launch. Sometimes you just got to start. And so I did a post recently saying, would you like this, in a poll? People said, yes, we would. So the next post was, here it is then. And everyone jumped in. So it was brilliant. And just get on with it.
Look,
do join in if you want. Yeah. So LinkedIn Content Conversion.
Amy's fully.
Amy, you're in. We're live. Actually, we're live later today. So 7 p.m. UK time.
Awesome. And Amy's like really she's writing down all the tips today. Really, she's been following us from the beginning. But she's asked a question: how do you grow a LinkedIn business page? Because what I've heard is LinkedIn business pages are dead. Like, don't touch them. What's your feedback or advice about LinkedIn business pages and Facebook pages?
Okay. I like the bit of the she says at the end, or I guess it is worth even building a LinkedIn business page. I'm going to start with a statement that isn't a disclaimer, but the statement is this: there's no wrong or right. There's what works for you, as long as it's legal and ethical, obviously. So there's no wrong or right. It's what works for you. I don't spend any time, energy, or effort whatsoever on LinkedIn business pages. If you speak to Michaela Alexis, she'll tell you like it's all and everything, and it's because certain people do certain things and do really well. And it's as simple as that. Some people will tell you that Facebook is the greatest place to make your business grow. So others will tell you it's a terrible idea. And so it's all based on how well they do. For me, it's intelligent to have one, because if you think behaviorally how the process works, of someone going from seeing you as a passive, cold audience member thumbing through their newsfeed, they see your content, maybe they see your content again, and then they see it again, and then they start engaging, and then you're creating, if you're stimulating enough, you create what's called the curiosity gap. And what that is when someone's like, that was cool. Who is this Diana person? And what is the Snortcast? That's interesting. So then they click on your name, and of course now they're on the profile. And all people are hardwired to stalk because we want to understand someone. We want to see if they're a threat, or there could be a win, or if we should be indifferent to them. We also want to see, is there something in here that might be stimulating for us? Part of that will be scanning through your profile, and because of the context of it being business platform on LinkedIn, they will look at like, well, what's her company, or what is that? So you should have a company page. Do you need to post daily content on it? No, unless you feel unless you work with a particular type of business when you're going to be getting a lot of following. If I had a well-known business brand and I was a corporate, well then sure, I probably should, because people may follow the company more than the individuals running it. But for people like you and I, we should be all in, and Amy no doubt as well, all in on profiles, but have a business page as just something slightly more evolved than a placeholder, in my opinion. Same with websites. Sorry, website builders. Same for that.
Well, they say websites are good to funnel people off LinkedIn or off Facebook, but it's pretty dead if you don't update it or are live on there, isn't it?
It is, but why not? But why not funnel them to a phone call where you can have a proper human interaction with them instead? Works better for me. So rather than going content and then website, it's content, human interaction on DMs, and then a Zoom chat. We get to know each other, and that's where deals can happen, as opposed to giving them more speed bumps and letting them muck about on a website. I know people disagree with me, but the fact is that if they're warmed through content, they're warmed because they like the person, and a website won't do as well as you will in engaging. Everyone's superpower is their personality, so it makes sense for you to do a call with them, in my opinion. And I'm right, by the way.
Look, someone, LinkedIn user who's anonymous right now, has written down what you've just all said right now.
Marvelous. Perfect. How about that? That's a good screen grab.
That's great. Miss Suchi is watching as well from Singapore.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
We'll have one more question.
All right.
We'll go over one more question because you've given so much value. Thank you so much. What do you think makes a post go viral on LinkedIn? So video used to have the numbers, but you can tell
anymore.
It's dying. No. It's dying. It's a dinosaur.
It's aggressively dying. It's aggressively dying.
What makes things go viral, Richard?
Okay, so I can answer this. So the way it works, if you desperately want to go viral, and it's not all that, by the way, and when you go viral, you still have to do something with that, and plus then the next day you have to do something new. So like, I know Amy probably gets this, but it's important for people to understand viral doesn't matter that much. Viral on LinkedIn, at least, typically is down to an amount short. The content has to resonate. Okay, it has to be good, profound, start conversations. It has to drive conversation through comments with velocity. So like in the first hour or two, you've got a bunch of them. But we can all do that probably. But what we really need is the right people to show up as well. And the punchier the active or network of the person who shows up, the more likely you go viral. So if you get, Bill Gates, who I'm looking right here, has just under 35 million followers. Bill Gates shows up early and writes a comment like, "Diana, this is a sick live stream. Love it." That's going to go live. Sorry, not live. That's going to go viral. Yes. And it's not necessarily because it captured the information of the interest of the masses. It'll go viral purely because of algorithmically he has this strong network. So LinkedIn says there's a party over here with top people showing up. Off we go. It's the same as if I was on Instagram and I get Kim Kardashian and Justin Bieber and Keanu Reeves to all comment. That post will go viral, even if it's just a picture of my chin. It still will work, But the other thing you can do, which is a little bit more accessible than getting Bill Gates to comment, which is why, by the way, it's stupid to tag him because it's not going to work, is to think about, well, what's going to stimulate the main metric which LinkedIn's looking for, which is commenting and like at pace. And it's, are you stimulating interest? Is there curiosity here? Are you bringing something exciting? And a good example is a bit of emotion combined with the right type of post. As you rightly said, video's a bit dead. Polls are killing it right now. On my birthday 2 weeks ago, I combined talking about my birthday, which will always go viral. It's my birthday, with a poll, which will always go viral. So I got 130,000 views in 24 hours, but I knew I would go viral because it was a poll written simply with a yes/no answer. And I also leveraged my birthday. It was shameless. I mean, but it worked. If I put a picture of my two gorgeous blonde daughters on here, that would go viral as well because it's emotional and it's lovely, and people would say, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" But just leave you with this. Yes. Ask yourself if you really need to go viral for the sake of it, or do you want to focus on things that will help people and that are aligned to the work you can help them, the problems you can help them with. That's really what matters. So chasing numbers doesn't pay the rent unless you know what you're doing with it. So going viral isn't actually what I focus on ever. It's am I speaking to the right people? A small number's all I'm after because I need to impact them. So yeah, it's certainly possible. There are your techniques, and good luck everyone wanting to get viral posts.
Well, like today, there's a viral post. I think today on LinkedIn it was announced we've got our first ever LinkedIn formation couple. So Shay and Jonathan have come out.
That's right. Yes, that's right. I'm the lead. I think we're all not surprised in the slightest. It's like there's no need to announce this obvious news because everyone's like, well, obviously. But yeah, that is a good example of post going viral because they have a strong community of people that view them in high regard, but also people who are who have strong networks. So Shay replying to Jonathan's post is obviously going to drive it higher because she has a big following. But more to the point, it's a wonderful story, well written, great anecdotes in there, and it makes you go, "Oh my god, exactly right." It goes to the heart. And the bottom line is, no matter how good your white paper is, it's far more compelling for humans who want a break when they're looking for content to read a wonderful story about two great people getting together. So like there's no surprise it went viral as well because it's the kind of thing people like. People like stories and people like good emotional posts.
And people want to fall in love. So my poll tonight after this
Exactly.
interview will I find love on LinkedIn? That's what my poll
Yes
will be.
or no, or other comment below.
That's it. That's all we have time for.
I really enjoy myself. Thank you for having me.
Holy crap. We were popping bombs everywhere, Richard.
It went so fast, but thank you. I really, really enjoyed it.
No, thank you. And if you've loved what Richard has spoken, given value to this community here on the Launch Off, I'm very honoured for your time. Please join him with his Facebook group called LinkedIn Content Conversion. He goes live on there, gives you tips live once a week. Is that right, Richard?
Yeah, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. That's 5 p.m. No, was it 2 p.m. Eastern? And who knows what time Australian? I mean, I don't know. Can't work it out.
Thank you so much. And just another shout out, if you want to jump on Restream, this is the link. You can pop onto 30 different platforms. I'm on 4 platforms right now. And next week, our show, we're speaking to Christian Sherry all the way from North Carolina.
Great guest.
She knows how to write books, that's for sure.
She does.
She does. We're learning that. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.